Story right now. After days of protests and growing anger across the nation, President Obama apparently felt he had to talk publicly about the killing of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin by a neighborhood watch volunteer. Listen to the president.
I can only imagine what these parents are going through. And when I think about this boy, I think about my own kids. And I think every parent in America should be able to understand why it is absolutely imperative that we investigate every aspect of this.
Let's talk about it with Melody Barnes. She's a former domestic policy advisor to the president. Worked with him very closely. Melody, thanks very much for coming in.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And the president also said if he had a son, he doesn't have a son, he has two daughters. If he had a son, that son could have looked like Trayvon Martin. You know, when I heard the president, he wanted to talk about this today, and you worked with him closely for years, it's unusual for him to sort of volunteer to discuss what is clearly a racially charged case like this.
Well, I think the president feels what so many of us feel. You look at this situation and your heart just goes out to these parents. I mean, their son was out buying Skittles and an iced tea, and he never returned home. And I think it goes to what the president said. He's a father. He thinks about his own daughters. It's what Trayvon Martin's mother said. This is my son is your son. This isn't a black or white thing. This is a right or wrong thing. And that's why this investigation has to go forward. We have to look at every element of this so we can understand it, understand what went wrong, so justice can be done, and so we can prevent this from happening again.
Because you know the president, obviously, very well. You work closely with him. Take us a little bit inside. He didn't have to answer that reporter's question in the Rose Garden today, but he wanted to.
Well, that's the kind of person this is. That's the kind of president we have. Again, this goes to the very personal set of feelings that he feels when he looks at his own daughters, when he thinks about how safe our children are when they go out in communities to go run to the convenience store, and what it would feel like not to have your child come home, and also all of the unanswered questions. We have to answer these questions. We have to understand how this law is working in Florida, as well as in the 22 other states that have laws just like this, to make sure that the right thing is being done, and that so we can have justice for these parents and for this community.
And if you look at those pictures of Trayvon Martin, you could totally understand what the president says. If you look at the president and you look at Trayvon, that could have been, if he had a son that could have looked like him, your heart has to go out to that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I look at the picture of Trayvon Martin and, I just cringe. I mean, I look into that very sweet face, that innocent face, and think that this child is now gone, taken from his parents, taken away from his dreams. And right now, there's so many unanswered questions, and that's what this investigation is all about.